it's Scott here again. If you have a CBR600 and you've fitted the 30mm Ohlins road and track cartridges, well, I've put a video together on how to change the oil and how to take the springs out, put them back in again, and how to set the oil level. So I hope you enjoy this. So after taking the front wheel off and removing the front guard, before you do anything else, before we loosen any of the clamps on the top or loosen the cap of the forks, the first thing to do is loosen the bolts, the hex bolt that's inside here that holds the bottom of the cartridge in. So we want to loosen those while the cartridge, or while the spring is putting pressure on it. Okay, so I've just turned that about a quarter of a turn. Is loosen the clamp here to release the pressure on the top of the fork. Next step with a 14mm socket is to wind the preload. Just wind it right off. Okay, so that's got 0 preload. Under the Ohlins 30mm cap, you need a special tool. Now you can buy one or you can make one yourself. I made one. So as you can see, I've just used M6 bolts and I've turned down the ends so that they fit into those little holes. And then I made myself a square hole just by drilling and then filing it. So, and believe it or not, this actually works. Into the 4 holes. Now that I've loosened the top cap, you can see the oil is running out. I should be able to take that bolt out, loosen it all the way. So you can see the hex key bolt inside there now that I've taken it out completely from the bottom of the cartridge. So that just sits there, it can't actually come out. Now that I've taken the bottom hex bolt out, there's nothing holding the cartridge in, so I can just pull this out. Now I've made up a sleeve here to go around the Ohlins cartridge so I can clamp it in the vise, just so I don't damage it. And you definitely need soft jaws on your vise, so I've just got some aluminium angle. So that goes over the cartridge, and then I can clamp it into the vise. What you do is you need a 19mm open end spanner, 9mm, and you can slide it on to the spacer at the top there, and it grips the nut, the 19mm nut on the bottom of the cap, and there's a ridge there, and it holds it in place. Then you just put a 14mm on the preload adjuster at the top, and you can undo it. And just take the cap off, then pull your 90mm spring spanner off. That spacer comes off, and when you put this spacer back on, that end there goes into a little machined slot in there. See how it spins around. Then pull the spring off and pull the spacer off, and that's it. That's how easy it is. So now what I want to do is I want to get the old oil out of the cartridge forks, the job I'm doing today, as I described, is I'm just swapping the fork springs to a stiffer fork spring to 10 Newton meters, and I'm changing the oil. So, got an old oil container here. So if I pump that, you can see the old oil coming out. Now that I've done that, I'll just give it a good clean with some clean cloth. You can see that's the threaded nut on the bottom where the hex bolt goes to hold it into the bottom of the forks. Okay, I'm ready to drop the cartridge back in now. So you need to have the forks fully compressed. So what I do is I just use an Oki strap, an elastic strap, and I'll just put it up around the handlebars and down onto the fairing, so that's pulled up as far as it will go. Okay, so now we can just drop the cartridge in. That's all we need to do for the time being, because we set the oil level without the spring and without the spacer. So normally you are able to do up the bottom bolt because there's enough friction there to hold it. So I'm going to finger tight it first. Just put a little bit of pressure on here to hold it in place. Okay, that's finger tight. Now on the CBR and with these cartridges, you only need to do the bottom bolt to 20 Newton meters, so it's not really tight. So I'm going to torque that up now. Yep, that's torqued. So that's good. And now we can put the oil in. Now I've found with these, the manual says to put 500 mils of oil in. I think that's far too much. Well, I've discovered it is far too much. So you want to initially put about 290 to 300 millilitres of oil in there. Now I'm using Ohlins 1309 fork fluid. So here's 250 mils. Now you want to pump the fork leg up and down, and because we've got an elastic strap on here, I can do that. So we want to pump that up and down a few times. And then also pump the cartridge up and down. You can hear it gurgling. But you need to do this to fill the cartridge up. You also need to make yourself up a special tool. I've just used an old axle here, but you need a nut that fits onto this thread here, and just weld it onto a piece of tube where the outside diameter is less than the inside diameter of the fork springs. So I'm just going to screw this on a few turns. Just makes it easier to... So that's full now. That cartridge is full of oil because I can feel it. So I can see the oil level in there. I'm going to be setting this at 170 millimeters. And when you set the oil level, you set it from the top of the outside tube, not from the inner tube, but from the outside tube. So after I've done this bleeding operation, what I'll normally do is I'm going to leave it for a while, just let it sit for a while to make sure all the air bubbles come out. So I'm going to go and have a cup of tea. Okay, I'm back from having my cup of tea. So this is how I set the oil level. I just have a syringe, large syringe like that, and I put a cable tie at the oil level depth that I want. So in this case I want 170 millimeters, so I've slid the cable tie up so that is 170 millimeters from there to there. And remember, you measure from the outside tube, and because it's on an angle I do it down the side here, so that should give me the correct level when it's vertical. So make sure that the syringe is fully compressed. Right, so that's on the edge now. So fluid's coming out. There you go. So it's now stuck in air. So that's at 170 millimeters. So once you've set the oil level, then you drop the preload spring in, the preload tube in. That's there, and then I drop the spring. Yeah, I drop the spring in, and the spring on one end has the part number and the spring rate, so it's a good idea to have that up so you can see it when you take the cap off. So I can drop the spring in. Here's my special tool again, so I just put the spring, the top of the spring spacer, put that on like that. Put this down here, screw it on a few turns. So I pull this up as hard as I can, like that, until the nut is visible, and then I can put the 19mm on, and it sits under the ridge on the nut there. So that's that. Now I can take this off. And now I can put the fork cap on. I'll just do it up finger tight. I'm just going to make sure it sits in its slot like that, so that's in the right place. Okay, and this cap has to be done up to 15 Newton meters, so my little torque wrench on the top there, 14mm, hold it there. Okay, so that's that. That's so how easy it is to put the springs in here. Very simple. It's a great mechanism they have. So now that I've done that, I can take off my elastic strap and let the fork tube down. Now, this is important because this has a top out spring. We need to push or pull the fork leg down. So you probably can't see me here, but I've got my hand on the bottom of the fork leg and I'm pushing it down. You can hear it hitting the bottom. So when I let that go, it springs up about 10-15 mil. So you've got to hold that down, and then just with a 14mm, do the cap up. While holding it down, do the cap up until the O-ring seats and seals. You want to get the full air spring in there. Okay, so that's good. It's got full air spring. Yeah, next thing to do is just tighten the cap up with my special tool. It doesn't have to be done up very tight, about 10 Newton meters. And then I have to remember to tighten the top bridge bolt. So the top bridge bolt only has to be tightened to 22 Newton meters, so do that. There you go. So that's pretty well finished. There's another video that shows you how to take the wheel on and off. So now I'll just set the preload, which I think is 5. Compression setting is 12 turns out. So I'll screw it into as far as it goes, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 clicks out. So that's it. That's how easy it is. So thanks for watching.